Hello. I'm Kyle Kempster, Director of Enrollment and Marketing for Western Michigan Christian Schools. I get to see a lot of energetic students. I get to see a lot of unique stories. I'm going to talk and challenge you today to get out to get in. Say that with me. Get out to get in. Really, that's all you got? Get out to get in. Get outside your box. Get outside the lines. Get outside your comfort zone to get in. To get into something new, get into something different, and ultimately get into something maybe surprisingly energetic. This is a story of a teacher, some students, some dogs, and some adults that got out to get in. Kim Wood is the business instructor at Western Michigan Christian High School, and this is her story of energizing and building a unique community. Kim?
Hello. Everybody's smiling. That always happens when I walk in a room with these guys. As Kyle said, I'm the business teacher, but I'm a dog lover, and several years ago, this big dog that you see on the screen was this little puppy, Sammy. That's Sammy when he was 3 months old, and it was actually my dream someday to have a therapy dog, and Sammy was the perfect dog at the perfect time in my life. I had been a traveling educational consultant for 5 years, and one day I got a phone call that Michigan's economy wasn't so great, and I was downsized. Here's 2 months severance. Have a good life. Thank you for your service. And I got Sammy, and I began training him to be a therapy dog. And Sammy, you can see, is doing a really good job in a really unusual situation. But what ended up happening was I didn't do a lot. Not until I got a chance to be the business teacher at Western Michigan Christian High School and connect with students. These are 2 of 22 of my students that are now involved in the pet ministry at Western Michigan Christian High School. We have 10 dogs that have passed the temperament test and are certified as therapy dogs that work with us. And what we do is we practice a lot first. So these students give up Saturday mornings to work with dogs. In order to go into a nursing home, people are going to have walkers, they're going to have canes, they're going to have wheelchairs, and they have to have the right temperament to be in this kind of a situation. So we spend a lot of time training. And it was a great energy, and our first few visits at Brookhaven Nursing Home were a little tentative, but we kept leaving with smiles on our faces. And my idea was we would do this 1 or 2 Saturday afternoons a month, and wouldn't that be great? Well, guess what? After 2 weeks, they said, well, Mrs. Wood, we have to do this every Saturday. This is just too cool. So we ended up being every Saturday from 1:30 to 3 at Brookhaven visiting. We got so successful that even younger brothers and sisters of my current students wanted to visit with us. So we have grown in so many ways. And the other thing that's really unique about the student side of this is the fact that we're a very, very diverse slice of our school. We have freshmen and we have seniors. We have scholars, we have athletes. We have a group of students that wouldn't normally come together in the day. They wouldn't sit together at lunch. They would not necessarily be in the same classes even. But because of this, they found a way to connect with each other. And here is Andrew, and I'm going to highlight Andrew because Andrew is Asia's younger brother. He's in 4th grade here in Muskegon, and Andrew was afraid of dogs. He had had a terrible experience with a dog as a child and was terrified. But because his sister was doing this cool thing, he wanted to come. And the first week, he just walked with us. And the second week, he led one of our smaller dogs. And now Andrew has grown in his self-confidence to where he will even lead the largest dog on our team down the hall. Something else that is really important about our pet ministry is the fact that we show up. What we experience from Brookhaven, from their staff, from their activity department, from their nurses, people have great ideas and they come once or twice And then something comes up and they don't come the next week. And then something comes up and, oops, they didn't come the next week. And after a while, maybe they're a little embarrassed to show up because they've been gone for a while. We show up every Saturday to the point where Brookhaven puts us on the calendar so that the staff and the families of the residents know we're coming. And we're kind of hard to miss with these great big paws and the dogs and all of the students. So we continue to show up. Something else, we got out of our comfort zones, many of us, and just jumped in. Because I could tell them how to train the dogs, but I couldn't really tell them how you interact with people. And we meet people of very many differing physical conditions, mental conditions, but we just go up and say hello. And it starts with that. And most of the time we get, what's your dog's name? May I pet your dog? Ooh, I like dogs. And then the dog responds and the connection is made. And then what happens after that is just amazing. Love with fur on. It totally is. And I put this screen up there to remind me to say palliative care. If anybody's in the health industry, you know that palliative care is the kind of touching you have to do to take care of someone, but that's different than affection. And what we have found in our visits is that we have a lot of people touching, wanting to touch us, wanting to touch the dogs, and wanting to be touched. And the staff at Brookhaven says, touch away. Touch away. You make lives different when you do that. And so here we've got someone who is meeting a dog for the first time, and then the first thing she does is reach for the dog. This is what I mean about making connections. When we visit the dementia unit at Brookhaven, where there are very many people with limited situations, they tell us that they see charitable behavior from the people on their unit that they don't see any other time except when we are there. People who don't talk, they say, what's your dog's name? People who don't move say, can I give him a treat? It's an incredible connection, and I'm going to embarrass Eric here a little bit. Eric had Sammy, and he was walking down the hall, and there is a woman in one of the units who walks all day, back and forth. It comforts her, but she doesn't make any eye contact, and she never speaks. And we had been coming for about 6 weeks, and Eric was walking down the hall with Sammy, and she stopped, and she bent over, and she petted him 3 times. And it was just incredible, because we jumped out of our comfort zone and got into this ministry. Things were happening that we didn't even realize were happening. And the next week, the same lady stopped me in the hall, didn't make eye contact, but patted me 3 times on the chest, as if to just say, I know you're here, and I know what you do. And I felt such a deep connection with her. I had to go sit down for a few moments and dry my eyes because it was such a wonderful experience. So we have small and big moments with people whenever we visit. And some of the people that we minister to or make happy are the staff. My students have come to recognize that working in a nursing home is a very challenging job. And it must be tough, knowing that for many of your patients, this is their last place before they are gone from this earth. And so staff members will stop in the hall and stop us. We stop for anyone. We stop for family members. We stop for a custodian. We stop for a nurse's aide. So we found out that we brighten the staff's day as well as the people who live there. And then I'm going to tell you another story about Andrew. Andrew, the one who didn't want to be with the dog, now comes, and do you see him there with Sammy all by himself? We always go to people's doors when they're in their room, and we stop and say, would you like a visit today? And they'll tell us yes or no. Well, I stopped and said, would you like a visit? And she said, no, thank you. I don't care for dogs. So my parade of students continued down the hall, and Andrew went by with Sammy, and she came rolling out of her room in her wheelchair. She's like, stop, stop, stop. And we all turned around, and she said, I want that one. And it was Andrew. And she went up to Andrew, and she touched his face like this. and she touched the top of his head like this, and she said, "May I give you a kiss on the cheek?" And fourth grade Andrew, with all of the amazing poise of a young man, said, "Certainly," and he bent over so that she could give him a kiss on the cheek. So sometimes when we connect, we don't even know how we're going to connect. We don't even realize the connection that we've made. But because we've gotten out of our comfort zone and into this new place, miracles happen for us all the time. So here we are with family. Another group that we minister to in our own unique way are the family members of the residents. We usually stop at the nurse's station and say, "Would anybody like a special visit from us today?" And they'll give us room numbers, and we'll make sure to look in on those people if they're not out in the hall or in the dining room. But quite often we get stopped by family members who are there in their way for a visit or on their way out of a visit. And last Saturday I had a big crew. I had about 15 kids and about 10 dogs, so we were kind of a pet mob. And we were standing by the elevator because we had to go up in 2 shifts because there were so many. And a woman who was coming to visit her husband came around the corner and she goes, "That one," and pointed at the dog. And the 2 girls holding the dog said, "What do we do, Mrs. Wood?" And she said, "That dog looks exactly like the dog we had when my children were growing up. My husband's in a very bad place right now. He does not want to be here. You 2 are coming with me." And off she marched with 2 of my kids and a dog. And I'm just like going, "Okay, you know where we are. Okay, see you in a little while." And that dog is not this one, actually. It's our Cheez-Its puppy who isn't quite ready yet. And she does everything on the leash, but when she greets someone, she jumps. So they took her in the room, and sure enough, Hannah jumped and put her front feet right on the bed. And the girls are going, "Oh no, oh no." And the man said, "That's quite all right. Just let her come right up here." And so this 40-pound dog jumped up on his bed and somehow innately knew what this man needed. And she laid down next to him just like it was her family, and she put her head on his shoulder, and he just petted her for about 15 minutes. And it's just something that is an incredible power that we know makes our lives richer and makes their lives richer. So the other big thing that we have is, again, we can always say, "See you next week." And we do. And we're hoping that people will get a piece of our story, and maybe there's a group that you could gather together to do something similar, because you will never regret having such a wonderful chance to change lives. Thank you for your time today.